Hello, this is an amazing podcast. This is D and Modi, and we are doing a double feature where we talk about the last two episodes of God of High School. So, what did you think?
I like these episodes. I think a lot of the problems that we've been having in previous episodes are kind of still continuing. But overall, I like them, and I liked them more definitely than episode 7.
One thing I will definitely say, and this is probably going back to the issues we've been having earlier, and this is something I kind of realized. This show, the reason I'm having the issues I'm having, and I'm being so vocal about it, is because it does everything else so freaking well. Character designs are great. Characters themselves, great. Fight scenes, great. Relationships and character building, great. But the fact that the Cherry Yuke is so poorly executed, the fact that it's surrounded by all this other great stuff, makes it stand out so much more. In fact, I literally went on the Wikipedia page just to figure out, what Cherry Yuke is. And a bad sign is when you have something that's commonly used all the way up to, I'm going to guess 70% of the series, and you have to get a Wikipedia article to explain what the heck it is. In the Wikipedia article, they explain it as you make a contract with a god, and then you can either copy their powers or bend it into a different form based on your preferences. How hard, are you telling me you could not give that quick explanation anywhere else in the series? Anywhere else?
That's interesting because if you hadn't told me that, I had given up hope by this point, actually, that we were going to find out more. Because at this point, they're using it so much, and, they're just tossing the word around so easily that it made me think, okay, I guess it is what it is, and it's just some power, and it's probably not going to be explained any more in depth. I guess there's more in the wiki, which implies to me that later on they explain it, but it's late. It's too late. That was a simple thing, and it should have probably been explained. Getting God's power earlier.
And either just following point blank, or just manipulating it like Nin to suit whatever your needs. That sounds really cool. Too bad we didn't know what the heck it is. And
yeah, it's. I understand the idea of holding things back, and it's done a lot. But in this case, when you hold something back, I feel like it should be something that's not so front and center all the time. Because the question just keeps coming up, and you just get focused on you can't really even enjoy or appreciate the power that they're using because you're still trying to figure out how they even got that power and what the power is.
The problem with how the anime is presenting it is it's withholding information, but not withholding usage. It's throwing you either have to throw both information and usage at the audience, or you need to withhold usage as well as information. The amount of information has to be proportionate to how much said concept is used.
Yeah.
And you don't get that with God of High School. The other...
Or if the concept is going to be used, or if the concept is going to be front and center in the story has to revolve around figuring out what that concept is all about, rather than it just being there and just being used while other stuff in the main plot is happening.
Essential. The main characters have been winning fights left and right, no problem, without having to use Cherry Yuke up to this point. And this kind of goes. It feels like the problem with how the anime is handling it is, imagine going to someone's house and there being a huge elephant in the middle of their living room, and the people who invite you over go into the perfect amount of information of every single item in their house except for the elephant. That's what this show feels like. And this kind of goes into something I wanted to bring up when I was thinking about how the webtoon was written. And I still need to read the webtoon, and I'm kind of interested to read it a lot. Like, if this problem didn't exist in the anime, I probably wouldn't want to read the webtoon. But since it does, I'm more curious to read it, because what's going through my mind right now is, if this is how it's introduced in the webtoon, I'm wondering if that's a byproduct of the medium again. Because if you compare a webtoon to a manga usually gets feedback from an editor and fans. A webtoon author just gets feedback from the fans. And the problem with that is fan feedback is usually super binary and only focuses on the things that are either super amazing or super horrible. So, for example, with God of High School, and this is in my theoretical case, I can't say this is for certain because I haven't dived too deep into it, but it feels like if this is exactly how it's presented in the webtoon, it feels like the writer was writing all this stuff out, and he got nothing but feedback that was just saying, man, the fight was so awesome. Oh, man, did you see how he was, summoning all those gesture stuff? That was so cool. Oh, man, that's awesome. I know that's a really broad generalization, bear with me. If an editor had read that, he would have said something like, okay, what was that giant monster Q summoned? And he was like, oh, that's his Cheryuk. And the editor would reply, what's the Cheryuk? It's a god summoned through a contract. And it's like, how do you get the contract? Oh, you have to do X, Y, and Z. Who can use that? Blah, blah, blah. And then after that entire conversation, I guarantee the editor goes, you need to add that somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. That's a good point, because I don't really know too much about how webtoons work, and I would actually be surprised if the biggest webtoons, especially even God of High School, if they didn't have editors. I would be surprised if right now as it stands, God of High School doesn't have an editor. But I wouldn't be surprised if early on they didn't have editors, because I guess when they start out, you just post it, right? So there isn't necessarily any vetting. You could just post whatever you want. So I guess it would make sense that any story early on might not be as cohesive, I guess, because they wouldn't have editors. I never thought about that. That's a good point.
They only would webtoons if that was think about it this way. If God of High School, since it made it big, why would webtoons want to stick their fingers in it? Because they've already proven that what they're doing is right, so there's no reason to dive in. And plus, I think that a lot of their pay is based on how many views they get. So I can't imagine a representative from it has to be a YouTube kind of setup where okay, you're making this many views, here's your pay, keep it up.
Well, I do know for a fact though that webtoons do have editors, I guess not every webtoon, but webtoons that are I guess that are into the webtoon program where they can get paid and whatnot. Those do, and the ones that are on a regular schedule, those do have editors. But the extent of what I know the editors do is they tell you to fix stuff in terms of formatting.
Right.
I'm not sure if they tell you to fix stuff in terms of the story. So they couldn't. But I would be maybe not. I guess you have a point, because if if it works, like, why reinvent
if that's
the wheel?
Case, I am imagining a webtoons editor just being works. Like reading through it and just going like, "Huh, so that's what the kids are liking." Okay, here you go.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a very good point. I didn't think about that. That's true. I wouldn't be surprised because this does seem like the kind of thing. And also, let me just say, and you mentioned it earlier, I'm not sure if the anime has changed stuff from the webtoon. That's very possible that it has. But if not, then I would probably say, this is the kind of thing that arises when you don't have an editor. I feel like also if the anime had changed stuff, I would have heard about it because people would probably be talking about how the anime is different from the webtoon, and I haven't heard that. So either way, I'll probably check it out at some point and see if the webtoon is any different.
So I don't want this to become like the D moans and groans about Cherryuke. I mean, I feel like I've been doing it so much, we might as well make it our like anime OP. But I do it because, like, there are a couple of issues I have with it. And the main one is, I'll say this. Ruby did a really rough job of introducing its power system, but it did a exponentially better job than God of High School. And the reason I say that is because Ruby had a very simple power system. Well, and there are two reasons. The first reason is Ruby's power system was really simple. All the characters had a very simple, easy to understand power. They established that each character has their own unique power, even though they never showed it. And everything outside of that was just like using aura to like block blows. The second reason is Ruby takes place in a fantasy world different from our own. So we're more capable of suspending our disbelief and just taking information in blindly. The problem with God of High School is that A, the power system is super outlandish and super unpredictable and super over the top. And B, it takes place in a world very similar to our own. Whereas, if you're like watching a fantasy show, or like, you're just watching like a insert isekai fantasy anime name here. If you see a character like shoot fire from the mouth, your brain automatically establishes that, in this world, people shoot fire from their mouth. But with God of High School, since it takes place in a world very similar to our own, when you see that, you think, people don't shoot fire from their mouths. How is he doing that?
Do you feel like it would be different if from the very beginning all the characters, including Mori and Mira and Dewi, if everyone had a certain power from the start, like everything stays the same, it's still not explained, but they just have the powers from the start? Do you think that would change it? Because I feel like I would be more willing to accept it, because I would just take it as, okay, everyone has like this stand power and that's that. And even if I would want more explanation, I would still be able to accept it better than the way it is now, where it's like, now it's something that not everyone can get. You have to train to get. It's like, and you have to build yourself up to get it. Some people have it, some people don't. It builds more mystery around it. Whereas if everyone just had it from the start, I would just be like, okay, it's a world where people have stand powers, and I probably wouldn't think about it that much more after that.
First action scene, like Jin just uses some random power, and everyone is just like, God dang it! How could you, like, you're so strong, blah 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 blah, and like reacted to it normally. That coupled that would fix 70 to 80% of the issues. If you just couple that with like every single character having a very specific and identifiable power, instead of like how you saw with the whole commissioner fight where everyone's just like pulling stuff out of their butt, then everything would have been like
literally
solid. But the fact that they set it up, like, this feels like Hunter x Hunter, where they try to like slowly ramp up the spectacle of it, but they don't ramp it up. What, like...
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, it's like they, if you're going to ramp it up like that, like, you have to make the learning about the power an actual central focus of the story, right? Like, as they did in Hunter x Hunter. But like here, it's like it's just something that keeps coming up, but it's not ever really addressed, you know? And like the thing is, like you said, like earlier on, about how you're shown every single thing in the house, but not the, like, you're not explaining what the elephant is. Like, you can't enjoy the actual plot of the story because you're just distracted by what is this power, you know? It just keeps coming up and it's not being explained, so it makes it hard to even actually just enjoy the story for itself.
World building,
you know,
they established really early on that there are some people who train all their lives and never get it, but there are some people who just get like a spark of inspiration and all of a sudden unlock it. Why aren't there just random people walking around using Cheryuk? Like, if there's... I feel like when they said spark of inspiration, I took it to mean as like what happened to Mira, where like you're in a fight and you're like in a dire situation and you're like about to die or something, and then you awaken the power. I feel like it, like it's like, that kind of thing. Like, it's not just like random. Where it's just like sometimes you just unlock superpowers out of nowhere, kind of thing. I was thinking of it as like a stand power.
Yeah, and what do you think about that in itself? Like, the idea that like it's a type of power, because I feel like this is pretty new and unique to me. I don't think I've seen a power like system, I guess, where nobody, like, you can train for it and never get it, or you can not train at all and get it. Like, I've never seen
I don't like it
a power system that does that. What do you think about that?
Because like, think about it. If you give
and I feel like
specific criteria for how to unlock powers, then the lead up to it is a lot more apparent, and you build way more tension because you can like see like, oh man, it's coming, oh wow, here it comes, oh man, it's Lu Bu, that's so cool.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know. I've really the only other webtoon anime I've seen I guess is what is it called? Tower of God. I'm starting to wonder if like maybe this is like a trope in webtoons where you have like where like luck is seen as like just being lucky is seen as a cool thing and it's used as a trope, because I remember in Tower of God where they had that test where like if they couldn't pass through the wall, they wouldn't be able to make it to the next level. And then the test administrator was like, yeah, well, luck is a part of skill, I guess, pretty much. And he's like, if you're not lucky, then too bad. So I feel like this power system where like, yeah, you could train your whole life and not get it, or you can just awaken it. That's pretty much saying the same thing, where like, you gotta just be lucky. And I wonder if that's like a trope. I'm trying to think of if there's any other stories that kind of use that in that way. I'm not sure,
dude. Because that's, like, so boring. Like, what's a more interesting story? Like,
I feel like
trains all his life, works hard, pushed himself to the limit, and then unlocked a really awesome power? Or the story where a dude just, like, went to the mall and, like, became god of the universe?
Yeah, but, like, I see what you mean, and I agree, though. I agree that the first version is better. I definitely prefer the story where, like, you know, the hero trains and gets the power. But in a way, I feel like it's not actually that much different from any other series that is, like, that has a main character that's strong off the bat.
Right.
I feel like it's just being more direct and being in your face about it and just being honest about what it is. Because, like, if you look at let me think, like, each Spider-Man, yeah, sure, let's use Spider-Man. Like, you get a power and it's like you're just literally stronger than everyone. Like, you're just better, right? And you didn't work for it necessarily, and you're just better. Or like Ichigo, right? He just has the power and he's just naturally talented. But this is like, and luck is a part of it. Same thing with Luffy, at least in the beginning. Like, he's just stronger than everyone, and that's that, right? So I feel like this is just like doing that, but just being in your face about it and just being like, yeah, luck, you got to be lucky. And that's, that's what it is. And I don't think I hate it. I feel like if you do that, you have to be careful because, like you said, it opens it up to like ass pulls, and you have to be careful to keep it. I feel like you're making it, you're going into dangerous territory because then it just makes it very easy for you later on to just be like, oh yeah, he was lucky,
Yeah.
And
you know what? The one thing that really frustrates me even more, like in the most recent episode we watched, we got an introduction to like this true power of like what's her name? Mira's sword. They called it a national treasure. And they explain that way better than their entire power system. Like, it's a super powerful weapon that links to its owner. Like, how hard is that?
Yeah.
Also, can we, this is just a quick mention of that. If you're a parent and you're handing down, a superpowered MacGuffin weapon of mass destruction to your child, I feel like you would hype that up a lot more than, oh hey, this is your dad's sword. Good luck. I would be...
Yeah, you would explain it.
For me...
You would at least have, some sort of writing or something like, this is what this sword can do,
I don't know if it's just coming from, personal experience, because, my family has a Bible that, So, both my grandfather and his brother fought through World War II. One was fighting through Africa, and the other one, I think, enrolled later and, fought in D-Day, or they were, on separate tours. And they literally had, the same Bible they claimed got them through both those situations. And my parents, my dad was like, okay, this is the family Bible. It's superpowered. Take care of it. I feel like you would have, if that was me, I would have been like, okay, this is Lubu's magic sword. It's freaking Excalibur. Do not lose this shit.
That's so true, because when you think about how, she got her sword stolen at the wedding, and she's like, whatever. Also, that's another thing. So does that mean that the people they were fighting in episode 9, the guy with the sword, were they part of the same organization that stole Mira's sword?
Yes.
And I guess, is that organization also the organization that kidnapped Mori's grandfather and attacked him and all that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I feel like it's a little bit it's there and you can put the dots together, but I also feel like that's another thing that should kind of just be clearly stated, because none of the characters within that organization are reoccurring. You just have to make the assumption from the fact that they are being an antagonist towards the main characters, that they are all part of that same organization. I feel like it should be stated more clearly, or they should just have the same characters coming back to do the attacking. I don't know, why wouldn't they just have the guy who was going to marry her be one of the fighters? Why wouldn't the tournament be the one fighting Mira?
Why wouldn't he be the one using the sword? Because he had a samurai based stand. Why you give that to the Kraken dude?
Yeah, he just gave it to what are they called? People, the underlings, why would you do that?
Yeah, okay, so how did you feel about that whole situation? Because I was, trying to decide how well that was, whether or not that was a good move or not. Because, on the other, because I also feel like you could just have her keep the sword, and then have her be pushed to a critical situation, and then just have her awaken her Cherryuke, and then boom, the weapon appears. But on the other end, with it being in enemy hands, I feel you also have more access to the information of what the weapon is.
I feel like the way it should have been done to keep that same level of like weight in the moment was just have the same person who stole the sword from her be the person that she takes the sword back from,
right?
And that's how it's explained, right? Like maybe they could have had like an episode after the sword gets stolen. They have like an episode where they go and try to find the sword, and they almost get it back, but they don't. And he's like, "I'll see you again, and if you think you can, take the sword from me, take it back from me at the tournament." And they're like, "What? At the tournament?" And then episode after that, they find out that they have to do a team tournament in round 2 or whatever. And then they're like, "Oh, okay, and we're gonna fight this guy." And I feel like it could have been done like that,
Although I will say the sword had a really cool design to it, like the whole yin yang with like the yin being the blade and the yang being the hilt. That was so nice looking.
Yeah, I like you said. I also like a lot of the character designs in the series. I like them a lot.
Right.
What did you think about the fight between Mori and the second guy on the team? I don't even think we got his name. Like the guy with the blue hair.
Okay, so I absolutely love that scene. Although part of me kind of would have liked it if we got the really over the top badass fight scene between him and the Shadow Clone guy. And then you sort of like do a callback to when to his first fight in the tournament where he's all serious, he's all badass, he jumps in the ring, and then all of a sudden Mori just like re-collapses to the ground after the entire fight, sort of just like mimicking that same moment where he just like pressure points himself into submission. And one thing I do like, again, like that fight scene was just absolutely amazing. I just have like a few nitpicks. The first nitpick is that could have been a really awesome like action hero moment where he's like, "What happened to Pei Long? What happened to him? What happened to him?" And then Mori just stares at him like straight face and he just goes, "This," and he just levels him using the same exact combo.
Woo! That would be so nice. That's true. Yeah.
And how did you feel about his like super dragon kick thing? Did you feel like that was kind of ass-pulley? Because I was like, I was very slightly on the fence about that. So I feel like that was like a new move, but it also feels like the kind of move that like isn't out of left field for that character.
Yeah, I pretty much feel the exact same way about it. Like at this point, I wasn't surprised at all, and I guess it's cool. I do feel kind of like I wish it would. I really liked how it was at the very beginning. It was really going deep into the like martial arts aspect of everything, and now it's kind of just like like superpowers, which I don't mind, but I just kind of miss it a little bit. I feel like it's just escalating to like superpowers and stuff so quickly.
See, the problem is the superpowers wouldn't be bad. They just need like a nin or chakra level of explanation to it, where it's just like, this is next level martial arts. Or they could have just like, even better, just have them like do Street Fighter and Dragon Ball Z level stuff, where they're just like, instead of summoning stands and stuff, they're just they're like such top level martial artists that the force of their punches like sends people flying, or they're just like using ki and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you think so like at some point, I don't know if it was episode 8 or 9, where Mori said he doesn't want to learn Charyuk. Do you think he actually won't learn? Do you think he's just gonna keep getting stronger without learning it?
I highly doubt that, because here's the thing. They established early on that like you learning like Charyuk isn't about learning a power, it's just about like right place and right time. So, like, it's not up to him, it's up to the plot. Which, again, is another issue I had about the writing for Charyuk, because he upfront calls it borrowed power. We don't know, like, it legit feels like there was an episode where they explained all of this and they just cut it out.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to describe it. It literally does. It feels like you missed an episode, and Yeah, that's so true.
Which sucks because they put the exact perfect amount of time to like introduce his best friend rival character and his backstory. But
oh yeah,
if they I swear to God, if they just like cut out, say, the time they put into like the fencing girls, Corinne, or I'm just gonna call her Corinne because she looks like the Naruto character. If they just cut out her story, or even like cut out that entire section with like the blind announcer dude, and replace it with like a straight up explanation of Cherryuke, this show would have been like a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it really needs more of an explanation for that. I mean, it needed it at this point. It should have already been done.
And honestly,
a while ago.
Like, I feel like my feelings for this show are I feel like I have the weirdest feelings for the show than I've had for any other ones. Because it feels like right now for me, the show is a 6 or a 7. But if the character writing was worse, or the character designs were worse, or if the fighting was worse, it would become a 8. It would become a solid 7. Right now it's a shaky 7, but if you dialed or leveled back one of those aspects, this would become a 7.
Why?
Because like I said, the reason I'm always harping on Cherryuke is because everything else around it is just so good, it makes it such a bigger issue. But if you tone down the quality of one of them, it becomes a much smaller issue, and it sort of brings the average up a little bit more.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. That's true. Yeah, I also wanted to say for the Cherryuke thing about him learning Cherryuke, I think it would be interesting. I doubt it's going to happen, like you said, but it would be interesting if he actually does go the whole story, like being the one character that just gets very far without learning it, and like maybe like becomes the strongest without learning it. I think that would be an interesting way to take the story. That would, yeah.
I don't think that would work. See, that would work if he was an underdog, if he was like a Rock Lee character. But we've established very early on that this dude is strong AF.
Well, I mean, maybe that, like, don't you think that would be interesting if, like, he starts... I've never seen that before, where a character starts out, like, the strongest, and then he becomes the underdog. Because, like, maybe he, like they said, there are some people who can train all their lives and not learn it. So maybe he can't learn it, and everyone else gets strong. Everyone else is learning the powers. Everyone else is overtaking him, but he just has to stick to his martial arts to still continue to get stronger. I feel like that would be a very interesting way to take it.
See, it would if he actually struggled against Cherryuke users. We've seen all throughout the show that, like, the main characters have absolutely no issue dealing with Cherryuke with basic martial arts. Like, even with, like, the, Mira's opponent, he never used Cherryuke. She was only at a disadvantage because he had a better weapon.
Oh, that's true. He didn't use it, did he?
Nope.
Huh, that's true. That's a good point. I feel like it's coming, though. I feel like there's going to be the point where they're going to hit the wall and they're going to have to learn it. But I don't know how that's going to happen, especially since it's pretty much been established that they can...
So I was going to say, like, if they did go that route of him, like, becoming the strongest without using Cherryuke, and they're taking the route they're taking right now, it wouldn't make Mori look strong. It would make Cherryuke look weak.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that, actually. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Last thing I wanted to say was that I really liked one of the best things about these last 2 episodes. I forgot which one it was in. Was the backstory of not only of Ilpio, I guess, his rival. By the way, quick note, Ilpio used Conqueror's Haki. I know you don't know what that is, but that's a thing in One Piece where, like, pretty much you just, like, exude your willpower and then people just faint because of how strong your willpower is. And, like, that was literally just Conqueror's Haki, because like it's a thing where like people are supposed to faint, and then if someone doesn't faint, it means that they're strong, and that's literally what they did. They're like, oh, he didn't faint, so like, oh, this guy must be strong. But anyway, super side note. But anyway, I liked his backstory with like him getting the book from Mori's granddad.
Yep.
But I also liked Mori's backstory with his grandfather that we got more of, because this really crystallized for me what his motivation is for getting stronger, because it seems like his grandfather left him because he didn't want to put him in danger.
Yep.
I feel like that's a really cool motivation to want to get stronger, because like you want to be able to be with your grandfather without him having to worry about you. That's interesting, and I think that's unique. I don't think I've seen something like that before, so I really like that.
Totally. Like I said, background and character work is all really good, which is so frustrating.
Yeah. It really is. But yeah, that's all I had for it. Was there any other thoughts that you had for the story?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, so how would you rate it, these last 2 episodes?
Fights. Okay, so I want to rate them a 7. Okay, so this episode, the most recent one, is a solid 8. Did a good job with backstories. It did a good job with the fight scenes and all that kind of stuff. Character stuff worked. A lot of really great visuals. And it explained the whole National Treasure thing really well and in a very understandable way. So, 8 out of 10. I would say the second episode, again, it was a good episode. I would give it a 7.5.
Wait, which by the second you're talking about episode 9?
The one with Ilpo.
Okay, all right. Okay, got you. Episode 8 then. All right, yeah, I would pretty much I think I would probably give both of the episodes a 7. And yeah, I pretty much have the same reasoning for you, but I just think those things weren't not as high of an 8. I would say a 7. The fights were good as usual. Right. The fights are probably like 8s, 9s. Oh, one more thing. Last thing I wanted to say, which is Mira's swordless style was pretty cool. I like that. Like how when she lost her sword, she still had like a technique she used where like she was holding like an air sword, I guess, and she just did that. That was funny. I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the last thing I had to say.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you for watching this double episode, and see you next week for our review of episode 10.
That's it.
Bye.